NFL is connected to Pizzagate. The state of California is connected to Pizzagate. The continent of Europe is connected to Pizzagate. Oh, well, what do you think about that? One day.
Hi everyone, good evening. It is February 7th, 2018, and this is Porthole to Justice. I'm your host, Amelia Duran, and that was Zeph Daniels with Pizzagate. And I often will post his music in the anti-NWO tunes page on Facebook. Check it out. And yeah, so I'm going to have Lotus on today. I'm just going to start calling her the keeper of the fourth crown because it sounds kind of cool. All right, stand by. Let's see. Let's see if she's here. We got to give an update. Nope. Okay, let's try. Stand by. I've taken kind of a little break, and I'm back. It was nice. Come on, Lotus. Pick up the phone. We're live. Okay. Well, I'm just going to chat a little bit until she... Oh, here she is. Hi, are you there?
Hey.
Welcome. We're live.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Whew. Boy, it's a crazy day.
Oh, I know. I know. I was just saying in the introduction, I think I'm going to start calling you the keeper of the fourth crown because it sounds cool.
Well, that's what I am. It's not my crown. I just found it.
Well,
I lived it, so I found it.
Well, I wanted to. There's so much I want to talk about.
Lots of good things happening.
Yeah.
Lots of disclosure. I think that everyone should remember that our president is the master of the art of Sun Tzu, the art of war. And we discussed this. He keeps his friends closer, but his enemies closer. He's very Machiavellian in his methodologies of business and politics. I think it's funny when politicians fail to understand that business runs politics, so businessmen must know politics. They just play it privately. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And they underestimate the American statesman, because the American statesman is a man and or a woman, no matter your color, because there have been statesmen and stateswomen of every color and race, in my mind, in my belief. And statesmen are people that have become so good at what they do, it has allowed them a sense of independence above the states of men. You know, they have a moral life, they do good for themselves, they pay tithe where they should, they don't harm anyone, they operate in good faith. And they become esteemed, wise people, even in a business sense, because I think that no one would disagree that Donald Trump is very respected in a business sense in the world. I don't care what people say. And the world respects him as a businessman. And he's running the largest corporation in the world right now, the United States. And he's doing a very good job of it. And so there's good things coming out in disclosure. I just want to warn people that I think that people should kind of wait out some of the decisions that we see coming forth of who's being appointed this or that, because in this day and age, being appointed to a very high position in his administration or in the government is a sink or swim kind of endeavor. They're giving someone an opportunity to do good or to do bad. And if they find out that you are going to take the opportunity and this privilege of being in the administration and turn it to your own lucre, or choose to fix a system you may know a great deal about. You know, we talked about some of his appointments coming up. And if you fail, they're going to wiretap you and find out everybody you know. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We're going to make people hold to their oaths.
Yeah, but I mean, it sounds like Obama's been doing that already. I mean, he wants to know everything that we're doing. He's been spying on everybody.
That guy is, he's a great fall guy, but I think it's deserving. You know, he was, I think, he's one of those people I talk about that were activated, you know, that people don't understand that in a free society, they literally plot surreptitiously with hidden agendas and cultivate opportunity. Mm-hmm. These are very patient, infiltrating kind of subversive forms of controlling government. The elite control the world by subversion and obfuscation. They are a hidden hand. And anyone who doesn't understand, I was just talking to one of my friends from the North, and if people don't understand that there is a hidden hand guiding our reality, our governments, the way our nations behave, the way our banks are manipulated, the way the people are treated and warred upon even. If people don't accept that by now clearly we have established that there is an unseen hand totally manipulating and corrupting what until now has been deemed the law, the nation of laws. Mm-hmm. And we are a nation of laws. The laws are not the problem. And that's I think what the focus of
it's
now
the
should
lawlessness and not...
It's the lawlessness of the men and women within those instruments. There's going to be a lot of shillery and toolery going on of people saying, we need to amend the Constitution. We need to do that. But you can't amend the de jure. Mm-hmm. And if we're going to amend the second pillar of the fourth crown, the public laws of commerce, which are built upon the private laws of commerce, which is the de jure Constitution, it better be to affirm that the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, and all those amendments that have never been properly, by a proper Congress quorum, more or less the Congress full of esquires quorum, they didn't even pass it legally. Okay, there are a lot of amendments in the Constitution that were never ratified proper because we're still operating in that trust of the Civil War. The people need to know what those trusts established. And we need to have an argument whether those improperly, they're in trust, they're de facto. They were accepted during rebellion as an instrument of trust. But they're not lawful. No de jure Congress has affirmed them, nor the states, necessarily de jure states have affirmed it. Those are not even passed in quorum in the Congress assembled. If we're going to have a constitutional convention, let's first make sure that we're willing to affirm the ones that exist there. This is a process. We can't even do that until we understand what we're doing. It's not the law and or the high. It's not the high law and or the low law of statutes. And I don't care. I will argue and prove to you in infinitesimal detail how common law is superior to statutes. The attorneys would like you to tell you statutes are superior to common law because they don't even understand common law at all.
They
and they
tell
admit
us
that they
that
are
procedure, court procedure.
Well, that's fine. They're a banking procedures. They're administrative process, and they're supposed to follow that. They are ins legis instruments. If an administrative process is there and the word "shall" is there, that means you will do it or not do it. If it says you shall not do this in statutory law, no administrator is ever supposed to do that. That is a line in statute. They don't care. It's the people, right? Those are there. In the preponderance of the laws that I have looked surrounding Title IV, and even with the obfuscation of the TONA and the Fourth Crown and how they really have no authority over the real man, we are exempt from that. I'm going to tell you in the law, the Fourth Crown, we declared ourselves exempt from the civil magistrate in 1809. Okay? We're not supposed to be subjected to these Baal-worshipping temple courts. We're not supposed to be subjected to the magisterial civil law of the Pope, which we are. We're being governed. Our courts are serving a process of law from the Pope, Rome. That's not our law. That's our laws of public commerce. That's our banking law. That's our fiduciary duty claiming house. Those courts are supposed to be settling our claims for fraudulent claims against our sustake as much as they're supposed to be banking on proper claims in compliance with statutes. They're banks of clearing. They're the clearinghouses for complaints against the way our estates are being managed. But the problem is, by them, the trustees, they're all the same trusteeship. The trustees are corrupted. Okay? That's the core of the problem. There are bad people in the FBI and good people. There are bad people in the CIA and good people. It's bad and good everywhere. It's about the men and the women who have given an oath to do certain tasks. Everybody who works for the United States corporate instrument, which is a trust. It is a commercial instrument of the United States of America held in a trust to manage our estates, our collective estates united, our states united America, okay? They're supposed to be managing that. We gave them that with the TONA. We were required to give the Pope back, give our estates to the Pope to be managed by the very people we just removed from our law. Esquires and titles of nobility, doctors, people who call themselves kings and Caesars, people of titles who think themselves above the states of men that
we have these magi, which are judges in
yeah,
robes.
magicians.
And we have something called the American Safe Families Act, which was founded during the Clinton administration. And it provides incentives in the form of federal title of IV4, or is it 4D?
Title 4.
Yeah, Title 4.
Title 4E and D. I mean, I think Title 4 covers a variety of things, but particularly E and D are the ones I think that handle the changing of hands from a parent to a grandparent, which they're using in divorces, which is really screwed up.
I think that this is what's being perverted and corrupted so that they can access our, like you said, our Jubilee, and it's incentives. It's incentives to target families, and
it's incentivizing trafficking of children.
Yes.
But it's not doing it overtly. There's nothing, and this is where we've talked about it. The problem with Title IV is they have allowed the states to self-manage, and this is their error because Nancy Schaefer warned them of this. So,
Senator, you're talking about Senator Nancy Schaefer,
yes,
from
the late
Georgia.
Senator Nancy Schaefer.
You can look her up on YouTube and go and listen to her speech and before Congress, and she was actually removed. She was actually removed from Congress, lost her seat for this speech and bringing to light this issue within Child Protective Services. And I want to say something really quick, because this is just my opinion. Okay, we were momentarily interrupted. I don't know who that was.
That happens to me all the time. I don't know why.
Yeah, we're still live. So what was I saying?
About Nancy Schaefer.
Yeah. She lost her seat in Congress for bringing this to light. This has always had the potential to be abused.
She exposed it a great deal and made very prophetic suggestions that they should have taken to accountability. And that's what I'm going to tell you. I don't have a problem with the title. I actually approve. This is what I'm going to tell you. This is why I'm fighting. I'm even fighting for the statutory law in this respect, because I think that the American bar unions have written really good trust law. And a trust law that can be defended on either side of the bar. Like it creates pivot points. There's the state trust was created by the Second 13th Amendment, which was passed in Congress during the Civil War. Who knows if there was a quorum? It was passed by one state during the Civil War. And that is the trust law, which the Rooker-Feldman doctrine, in my opinion, from a historian's standpoint, and having studied this and knowing the language, and knowing that actually there are three 13th Amendments. I dare that anyone knows that there are three past 13th Amendments. The first two were passed in Congress, constitutionally, whether they be in the de jure Congress of the first Tona, or the second 13th Congress of the de facto during the Civil War. But it was actually affirmed with the Illinois legislature during the Civil War. So it was passed by one state. But it would have to be passed again, and it literally is almost the exact language of the Rooker-Feldman doctrine. And it says that the states are exempt from federal oversight in defining who is a slave and who is a peon. And that is, that's the Rooker-Feldman doctrine. And it calls them domestic institutions. And so there's this very broad term that has never been addressed in a states' rights issue, which is what is a domestic institution. And they actually think the federal government, what the courts with the Title IV are arguing, is that the definition of what is a domestic institution includes the state's ability to monitor the internal operations of the families within their counties. Okay, They're saying, and that's fine, but there should be federal oversight to make sure. This is where it has not been connected yet by argument.
That's the thing. There is no regulation. There's nobody regulating.
Well, yeah, there's been no benchmark set, but they think. But in our mind, in the law, Title IV never suspends the substantial rights of the child. They're actually operating now that children, being legal representatives, have a complete suspension of substantial rights. In the state of Ohio, where this issue is going to find its roots in the way it is reworked and restored to the law, is they literally have a clause in the administrative code for juvenile courts, okay, for just the juveniles, the probates, where the administrator can waive the rights of the infant at the motion of the prosecution. Well, glad you could just make that child a thing. When you and your little union brother go, hey, do you mind, brother in arms, if we make this child a thing? And he goes, sure, I'll take all the rights of that kid away. Do what you want with it. That's actually in the administrative code for probate and juvenile courts in the state of Ohio. Who gave them the right to do that? Nobody. And yet they've been allowed to operate under that presumption that the probate judge can waive the substantial rights of the child, the motion of the prosecutor, of the plaintiff. Okay, when in a child custody case is the state not a plaintiff? I would like to find one. Oh, wait, in Title 4D, where they address divorces, where a grandparent can come and have a child removed because the mother smokes too much and might be a source of lice. Seriously.
I'm not kidding. Might be.
Actually, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in a potential divorce where, let's say, the grandmother has a lot of money and the poor mother was divorced the abusive son and was kicked out on the street with no house and no means of subsistence, not given welfare for the child or the mother. And then the grandmother sues because she has trouble finding housing. These are what things happen. These are the things that happen in these circumstances, people. Young, poor women being cultivated as just baby makers.
Breeders.
Wherever you look.
Breeders. What happens with these women is, I started to go into this a little bit. Yesterday I did a live video talking about, how women will get targeted by police officers.
Oh my gosh.
And
my gosh.
I got to explain this to you. Because, you'll find yourself getting like random tickets for going 2 miles over the speed limit or for jaywalking. And then
a whole bunch of overdrafts in your checking account you don't understand.
Yeah, but no, I'm going to make a point here. I want to make a point. And then, okay, eventually, you might get arrested. You might sit in a cell for a few hours and you have all of these court, fees that you're now in debt. And you're sitting in this cell with other women that are, talking about, oh, well, I can help you make some money. I can help you get a boyfriend. Well, and so they get you hooked up. They get you hooked up to these handlers. They get you hooked up to these handlers that traffic you, right?
Right.
And
absolutely,
and then what happens is, okay, eventually these women think that these men love them and that they're going to marry them or something, or I don't know, they're their pimps, right? So they eventually,
or they get pregnant, or the men that care for them,
or they get pregnant. Okay, wait, I'm
but
going.
They didn't put a ring on it. They never.
But then I'm going somewhere with this. They end up they get out of jail. They might get pregnant. They might go back in jail, but the state, if they're in jail, the state will offer them, I think, something like $5,000 for their child. And they have attorneys.
At least three. Oh, they don't have attorneys. The state in the state of Ohio, in the prison system, the women are mandated to attend. We want to buy your baby sessions with unregulated, unregistered, private adoption agencies.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you don't
and
attend,
so
they put you in the hole. They put you in the hole. If you sell your baby,
okay, so the women will take the $5,000. They'll sell their baby. They'll take the $5,000 and they'll sell their baby. They'll get out. They'll get up an apartment. Yep. And they, eventually that money runs out. They get evicted again. they end up pregnant again, or
nothing changes when they leave prison. They just sold their baby and went to prison. They still come out with the same state issue, the same circumstances that put them where they were before.
And for women, it's not like men. It's not like men where you have all of this vocational training.
Well, men do it too. No, here's how they do men. Let me tell you how they do men.
No, but I'm just saying. I'm making a point right now. So it's a vicious cycle, and these women become breeders, baby breeders.
That's the hidden hand. That's the hidden hand.
That's the hidden hand, and yes, that's my point. And let me tell you what
they do with the men. Here's what they do with the men, and Trump hit on this when he talked in his State of the Union. He was talking about these M16, whatever they are, this gang. That have come across the borders in these undocumented illegal aliens, and that came true. We talked about this. I told you that my concern with the Dreamers, if there was one person or even a handful of people with those 1.8 million that were nefarious and not for our government, and I have read reports for 2 or 3. I don't care if it's one, but it's been multiple people that were covered under the Dreamers have been caught trucking illegal aliens, more of them across the border.
Well, no, like and a lot of these men that end up in jail and they get on probation, they become pimps or quote unquote handlers.
So the M16 people get caught up in our prison system, and our prison system is inundated with victimless criminals. They have no victim; they're drug addicts. So they're putting drug addicts in the prisons with the drug dealers directly that are shipping the crap from Mexico, and they create liaisons. And so they're basically just putting these men in prison to create the middleman. Mm-hmm. People have no idea how the system is cultivating the issues we are dealing with.
Yes,
there should be. Or everyone who is a drug addict who has created a victimless crime should be completely separated from violent offenders and these instigators of the issues of poverty and all this stuff. You shouldn't be mixing the impoverished with the people that are promoting the black market economy of drug dealing. You shouldn't be doing that. And that's what our prison system is doing right now. It's just creating the meeting space. It's no wonder. It's no wonder crime has gone up. This is a cultivated mentality. They have created a perfect machine.
It's a systemic issue, and it's the same thing with the human trafficking.
Systemic. It's designed that way because the system is neutral. We have a neutral system of law that we are the snake eating its tail. We have done our job.
Ouroboros.
Yes. It's the people driving that perfection that are the problem. They are driving it for their own personal lucre. They have no motivation. They have a one-way pay going on here. Every time they do something that subjects or subjugates the people or diminutizes or even just breaks up the family unit, that takes a part of the collective state's power away. The state at this point in time has no motivation financially to fix poverty, lawlessness, or drug addiction, or not having a job, because they're making money in the human trafficking by treating these people that are victimless criminals. They're really I don't care what people say. I'm going to tell you that poverty is an inherent intentional design of our state. People are in poverty and people are drug addicts because the state has failed in its fiduciary duty. The state has a mandate on law to make those people not damaged, to make happy rats of all of us, to not allow people. Drug addiction is self-immolation. It's a hatred of self because they're stuck in poverty and lawlessness and people oppressing them. They are women that are having their babies taken from them as cultivated broodmares through repetitive victimless prison time, where there's no victim as drug addicts, where they get out on the street and they're hooking they come back. It's just this cultivation of baby breeding. It is really not cool what's going on.
It's not. It's not.
Not at all. I can speak to this firsthand. I could testify in any international or national or state body and testify firsthand and give direct witness affidavit to the unconstitutionality of our jail and prison system of this country and the racketeering of the human trafficking that is going on within it. And the repetitive, constructive obstructions to justice and the ability to bring right what is wrong. There is no remedy. This is racketeering. Yeah. People are being racketed. The criminal justice system is a racket. It is human trafficking that brings them profit in a failed state. They are profiting from a failed state. But it's not even us. Somebody else is profiting from our failed state. The Queen and the Pope, the bankers are profiting from our failed state that we pay for. We're paying for our own family.
So I started out the podcast, I did an introduction and I wanted to get an update because I mentioned that you're the keeper of the fourth crown, basically, because you're actively fighting this in the courts. And I wanted to I want to get an update on what's going on because I know you're not going to let this go. I know you're not taking this to Congress for settlement. First of all, Congress is...
I can tell you right now that Congress needs to have open hearings about the corruption in the judiciary, but that's on them. Yeah. I mean, okay, here's what I'm coming to know. There might be a process of complaining. This was always there. This was weird. Everyone who's having a problem with the government or being harassed by CPS or have their children stolen. Here's a suggestion from my mother, who's a lifelong civil servant. She said if every mother and father, family member who knows that a child has been taken by CPS and they feel it's unlawful and unjust and it's corruption, racketeering, and these people are not listening, they're fabricating stuff. If every one of those people, especially the ones that have children missing, wrote a letter to the Secretary of Health and Human Services directly and to just their a senator or the president, I don't even care, but at least the Secretary of HHS. We have millions of children that are being moved in this country. If every parent, I don't even like to use that term. They say they've made that to mean an instrument of guardianship or something crazy. But if every mother and father or family and kin and kith wrote a letter to the Secretary of the Health and Human Services, which is the supervising executive division. I mean, it's a division of government under the executive branch that is in charge for all Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, Title IV. It's responsible for like numerous acts. And I would really someday have you talk to my mother because her knowledge of, and she'll tell you, well, I don't know, I've been retired for 15 years, but this woman helped build these systems and these administrative codes and these CFRs. Mm-hmm. She helped write a lot of this, so she knows this. But they can change at any time, right? But she can tell you all the titles that they're responsible for. The title that is the subject of controversy and its constitutionality, the way it's being implemented, is Title IV, which is under the Social Security Administration. It's a Social Security Administration Title Act. And the Department of Health and Human Services is the secretary that reports directly to POTUS, Trump, as to what is happening. He is the top executive agent for this title. If every parent, grandparent, mother, father, relative, kin, or kith that feels that a child is missing, a child's being neglected, a family's being unlawfully targeted, people are making lies against them, they're not getting regular law, wrote a letter to the Department of HHS and the Secretary of HHS, I promise you, this would turn on a dime. Mm-hmm. People don't even understand that, and this is the thing we're talking about. There's this e-process. Let me tell you, people always have had the administrative code. People need to start documenting their complaints and writing letters. See, people don't understand the power of a letter, especially one that's handwritten. People are like, I don't have a computer. Write a hand letter.
What we can do, actually, is we can create something sort of general so everybody can customize it for their own purpose or case. And we can post it to the Porthole to Justice. And, of course... Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I mean... People can even start. I think what I'm kind of I'm going to tell you is happening is people need to start exercising the administrative process, which is just basically the old letter writing that used to work. Okay, writing a letter to your representatives of government used to actually work, and then it became corrupt, and like we don't have to listen to people anymore. Now they understand that there's so much corruption. A lot of stuff has been shoved under the rug and has prevented things from being discovered. And I think that the systems of government, of the people that care, which I'm going to tell you is the preponderance of our corporate instrument and this, who provides civil services. Look, we are supposed to be cared for. Mm-hmm. We're supposed to be cared for. We have given our land including the surety of our flesh. We gave all land.
Well, and that's
the
thing.
creation.
They want to base the whole economy and everything on the flesh.
The land's not to be transacted. It's just a tenement. Right. They're abusing the law of the trust. They can establish tenancy, meaning you can like rent its usage, but you don't get to rent the usage of children. Yeah. If it's a tenement, it's a land. People are an independent. That's a personal property. You can suretize our equity, because I'm going to tell you what I have contributed to the law of this world, to my own world, to creation, as everybody has, is not something that can be given a value. Mm-hmm. I consider my life something that can be given no monetary compensation.
Can I ask
life is not something that can be resolved by a complaint. It can't be resolved from a.
Can I ask
you can't value land. So if you can't value something, how do you rent it? You understand? You can't rent something you can't rent a Picasso. You understand? It's on loan to look at.
I want to ask you a question, but it's kind of a loaded question because it's a little bit personal.
Okay.
Are you and Ray married?
Absolutely. You have a personal treaty.
Tell me about personal treaties.
Well, treaties are the superior law. And what they fail to tell you is that you can affect a personal treaty by witness of two makes a fact of law.
So you don't have to join the state as a third party.
Absolutely not. I don't have to look. Marriage license is a construct of corporate state. I assure you, I have the ability to defend our estate. That's me, though. If you don't have the ability to defend your own estate, but I would definitely suggest that this is the thing that's people don't understand. What the simplest form of contract is two, but people think, oh, that's my husband and my wife, right? No, it's your contract with your creator. That's your first contract. Your first contract is you.
I just don't want to have the state involved as a third party.
Well, you don't have to. They don't have any business in your personal matters. But what Ray and I have affirmed in our contract, in our treaty, in our personal construct, is that we have a shared trust. We have every right to allocate the usage of our sestake. We don't have to give it to them. We can lease it to them if they're going to follow the law. But what I ever is that I'm going to tell you that I'm not going to give them my sestake as long as I know that they're operating in constructive fraud. And it's one thing to have constructive fraud in your government. It's another thing to have your judiciary coup that wars against a child to prevent a claim from being proven. That's prima facie a crime upon the state. I mean, we don't have our son back. You know how many times I filed a habeas and it's clear on the face of this case that they kidnapped this child against the statutes?
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't seen him. You know why? Because they're arguing about who has to pay and whether they're immune. We've not had one true hearing or had a word or nothing except for an argument against the state that we don't have the right to speak for our son because we're not attorneys. Not only that, but we can't even argue whether there is such a thing as a license to practice law. Actually, not because we're attorneys, because we don't have a license to practice law. So then if you go to argue, well, prove to me there's a license to practice law, and I subpoena every one of there's license to practice law, I get argued against by a sitting judge who says you can't even argue the license to practice law unless you have a license to practice law. That's where we're at.
Sorry.
It's a paradox.
Uh-huh.
It's an impossibility. So there's no remedy. There's no remedy when these people are egregiously operating outside the law. And so when your judiciary is denying remedy.
There's people that are fighting to get justice or some kind of remedy in the courts. There isn't anything available. There's nothing really available right now because of the corruption.
It's so corrupt, they're stifling claims, and it's in ways that are just egregious. And I'm okay. Okay, we can have a discussion about how we're going to settle this because you and I both know. I have repeatedly said I don't think the preponderance of escort.
Didn't we decide already that we're not going to settle?
Oh, absolutely not. But I'm just saying that as far as they don't know the corruption either. I just found this out. A lot of this. This is 6 or 7 years of intense research into the foundations of my republic that my family helped create, and why I was having a personal issue with the way it was being run from the backside. I mean, I've ran politics. I've ran 7 wards for the Kerry campaign and saw that it didn't matter if it was Republican or Democrat. They're like, "Why are you upset about one of us will win?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? The people were defrauded. There's rampant voter corruption, and this guy here I was working for, he promised me he wouldn't quit. He wouldn't cede until they proved that there was none, and he ceded before 10 o'clock, before the polls closed, and there was rampant voter fraud. But he got that Secretary of State ship, didn't he? Kerry, that great guy.
It's so crazy
with
because
Obama.
we have, clear collusion, corruption. And
nobody
nobody's being held accountable. There's no accountability.
No. A friend of mine used to say, "Why do you call it a Democratic and a Republican Party? It's just one party. It's us against them. It's just us." He's so right on it. Big, circle jerk, pardon the phrase, of nepotism. There is no party, people. There's one party. Those who are using the systems of state. I mean, I love Trump because they didn't even have him on the ticket, folks. He wasn't even a horse in the race. Mm-hmm. And the brother won. If I wish I had bet on him in Vegas, I would be a millionaire. I promise you they had odds. I would like to know his odds in Vegas because I actually think probably the odds were for Trump. We should find that out because
a lot of people, they're of the opinion that, Trump isn't really for us, the people, and it doesn't really matter because it's the interest. Okay, what did I tell you Trump was good at? You know what Trump's good at? This is what he made his millions at. He's the guy from Pretty Woman. He's Richard Gere. I mean, I know you guys don't want to hear this, but he's Richard Gere. He's a guy who has taken large corporations, bought them in bankruptcy, or acquired them, or acquired them on the verge of trouble, bankrupted certain businesses, broke them up, cleaned them, and then dismantling them. And so, do you think that's the direction that we're going in with our country? Do you think he's slowly going to just?
Well, I know that the ABC agencies are not instruments of the United States. They're agencies created by acts and treaties and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Like the FBI is supposed to be governed by the executive branch, but apparently
this is the thing with the agencies that all of the agencies that we know are compromised. All of them, the FBI, the DOJ.
An FBI.
And
you need an FBI.
This unregulated little agency, global agency called Child Protective Services, which
it's all administrative
is
code.
Notorious in the porthole to justice for committing all of these child pornography crimes and what have you.
Gosh, well, here's the problem. I'm going to tell you the problem.
But what I'm saying to you is, okay, so it's public knowledge. Everybody knows that a lot of these politicians are being compromised. What if, I'm just saying hypothetically, because it has crossed my mind many times. I'm not going to lie. What if it's CPS that's compromising all of these politicians?
Well, absolutely. It's the hand that shakes. What is, it's the give and the take. I mean, it's a paradox. It's a cycle.
We're really being run by
absolutely. Well, the systems of state are run by a sadomasochistic.
The CPS is the favorite arm of the government to target.
Here's what I'm going to tell you.
Traffic.
The way the system of banking and nation state, international state constructs are commoditized, children are a commodity. And when you have
probate, they are property.
I'm not going into that. I'm just saying children are commoditized, and there has been certain aspects of vacancies of law which have been left vacant intentionally. Okay, Title IV was left, in my mind, intentionally vacant of federal oversight. I could tell you how to fix Title IV. I've talked to my mom. She's worked within these programs. We need to federalize the system. There needs to be administrative law immediately. Transcripts should be mandated at the end of every, I'm talking mandated.
And audio.
Not just audio. No, I'm talking about there needs to be a federal notary in these are they're transacting federal instruments. You can say what you want. The issue is the federal government has given the states to access federal instruments outside federal law. And because not the statutes didn't allow that. The judiciary has been allowing it by stifling claims and allowing gross, repugnant abuses of due process of law. Just open child trafficking, it's just they're even putting in the case with Ray, they protracted and plotted with constructive fraud to deny her they extended the plea, they gave her the max amount strictly for the purposes of promoting the trafficking of her child. In her criminal hearing, mind you, Ray can't hear. She reads lips. Okay. This guy's talking the whole time with his mouth down, and you can tell she's saying to her attorney, what's he saying? You can hear. She's like, what? And he's like, just say yes. I'm telling you, this is a recording. She can't even hear what this guy's saying. But at the end of it, in the audio, he goes, women like you lose your babies. This is what he says to her. I'm like, I can't wait to ask this guy, who are women like her?
Have you been able to cross-examine him?
Absolutely not. That's the dude that struck his own subpoena.
I have an appeals case that I might be sending over to you in regards to cross-examining.
These are people. Look, remember how the argument now? Did I lose you?
Mm-hmm. No, I'm here. I
heard a weird blip.
Yeah, somebody is texting
these people. Okay, remember how there's a guy that wrote this piece, and I can't remember the guy's name, and I'm sorry I didn't. He says the only reason, they thought they'd never get caught. They were the repugnance and the corruption is so deep and inherent now. I'm thinking it's going on. Well, the corruption has been since the 1800s, but as far as in the executive branch, the corruption has been. They had to corrupt the executive branch, which they did in the Civil War. And they had to corrupt the banking. Then they had to create world wars to create bankruptcies. It's just all cultivated to attach all these trusts till they basically bankrupted all the world through world wars, where they had to create a world trust. And that's where we are the negotiable instrument for the world trust created by the United Nations and the Federal Reserve Act. People understand that after World War II, the Federal Reserve Act created a world trust. Okay. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a right to this world trust. There are countries all over the world that don't have birth certificates and all this stuff. So there are advantages to what we're doing here because it gives you a say in what the world does. Really. Mm-hmm. What the world is used for. It's our world. It's not theirs. It's not their world. They're supposed to administrate and executize our world. We're going to live in harmony. We're going to not harm each other. We're not going to violate the public peace, and we're not going to violate the public trust. And if you're willing to live under those three laws, they're supposed to manage your estate that you are the creditor, the beneficiary for, and you're supposed to be provided for. You're not supposed to be subjected to cruel, tyrannical civil magistrates. That's why they don't want these law restored, because they can't harass us. They're not supposed to harass us. They're supposed to be administrating we're keeping them
have military manuals to target individuals. They have electronic targeting manuals. They have
absolutely.
They have tactical.
Read the Libra code. The problem is the Libra code, and we talked about this.
I actually think we need the Libra code right now.
Well, the Libra code's in effect, but here's the deal. This is what I'm going to tell you. They talk about settling through Congress. Okay, you can't settle anything until you settle the Civil War, because that's that's a trust. The Civil War is a trust that is subject that the 13th, 14th, I think 15th and 16th Amendment have never been lawfully ratified, even in the de facto Congress. They didn't have enough quorum. So the Civil War if we cure the Civil War trust, we can cure the argument in banking about the 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th Amendment. See, we're trying to close banking arguments. We've been operating in suspensions of laws for the purposes of allowing the state to expose us in its manners. And the state is fine as an instrument. It's the men and women who are not following the law that's printed. They're giving you the face of legitimacy and just ignoring it behind the scenes, folks. That's what they're doing. It's a perfect system. Now it's so perfect they use the instruments and then they abuse it. It's a great system. I'm not for destroying the pillars of law. And what I'm upset about is there are attorneys, there are esquires, and they are willing to destroy their pillar of law, the pillar of law. It's not theirs to destroy, really, because they don't want to out their criminal masters. They don't want to out their baby trafficking pedophile suppliers. And it's like, do you realize what you're protecting? And I don't think they all do. I really don't think they all understand that. And constructive fraud is all about knowingness and consensually doing things. But still, give us the kid back and let's have the argument of fiduciary duty issues. Return. What I want a military panel to investigate all the children missing, with parents that have legitimate proof that they were just literally kidnapped, and that there's lies and there's this criminality to the theft of their child, or the children that are missing in CPS. I want the military. If I'm a federal instrument, if I'm an international instrument, the only instrument of law that we have, if you want to talk about law of force, is our military, which is an admiralty power. Okay, they protect commerce for the United States corporation and supposedly for the American people. If my child is an instrument of commerce, I want the military involved in the enforcement and the protection of my child from being unlawfully trafficked by these administrators of law, these esquires, these trustees. I want them in there telling me, where are all these missing kids? Where are the 70 kids missing out of Kansas or whatever? Where are they going? And I don't want you to put little dog chips in them. I want you to monitor the people moving them. I want you to monitor the people that are supposed to be protecting them, but instead of trafficking them. I'm not settling with Congress because this isn't a congressional issue. Congress passed on this in 2009, in my mind. Yeah, if they want to hear my complaints about being stopped by a racist cop or whatever, white or black, there's no racism here. They don't care. These people are fascists. Fascists don't care about color, creed, race, or religion, or gender. They don't care. That God is their state. They think because they have a uniform, they can do whatever they want to you. They've lost their minds, a lot of these. Not all of them, but some of them have. Mm-hmm. But those people in those unions, like I said, they need to clean up every union needs to clean its corruption up. The police union, the sheriff's association, it's an association if it's a common law, but it's a union if it's on the communist corporate side.
Well, and we
right?
know we all know how unions operate, and
you know what it's called in our law? A republic. The republic needs to get itself right too. Mm-hmm. People need to start being offended by the proper things. Trafficking of children is a huge issue in this country. It seems an absurdity, and it seems like it should never happen, but it is. And you know who's doing it? Your state. Corrupt people within your state are stealing babies. But I don't approve of getting rid of the law, the statute. That is not the problem. I approve of routing out the corruption and de-incentivizing it and putting it under federal management, because it is a federal instrument. The federal government should be monitoring when states access a child's jubilee. It is an international
I've been
instrument.
praying on the Human 2020, meeting every month on the 20th of every month. I pray on the Zeph Report, and I pray with, 6 or 7 other, radio show hosts and individuals that are like-minded. And I've been praying for the last 2 months for Trump to shut down the American Safe Families Act.
Well, he needs to de-incentivize what they're doing, that's for sure. He needs to take the incentive to not fix. Look, okay, when your states are profiting from the crumbling of the family unit, that's a bad law, that part of it. You can't pay the states. In fact, you should be penalizing the states if it's federalized. Here's the deal. If you were to federalize that program, the feds could penalize the states for not being more proactive in the fixing of the family unit issues. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. If you remove it from the state administrative, because it's been proven that the states cannot self-manage. Their unions are fraught with corruption. In fact, the federalization of the Title IV instruments that are now trafficking our children would clean the corruption up in a heartbeat. If you allow the civil servants in the Social Security Administration, like my mother, to open a full investigation of the state of Ohio, I assure you, within 6 months or a year, they would have a memo that would completely remove corruption within this government, because children are the number one commodity in this world. I'm going to tell you that right now. Humans and babies human trafficking is the number one commodity. You know why I can say that? Because our banks are founded upon it. The trust instruments are founded upon our flesh, our temple, our court without a temple. Our court without a temple. We've talked about this.
Yeah, well, our bodies are our temple.
Our body is our temple. People who do not believe in statism, that do not make God as state. Okay, people who live and don't harm each other, do not violate the public peace and the public trust. America, at this point in time, I'm going to tell you folks, there aren't a lot of countries in the world where people can walk around of any race, creed, or color and not be harassed for fear of life, limb, and whatever, and property. America is a very unique place in the world. Travel, and you'll figure this out. We have a sense of safety in our daily lives that a lot of the world does not exercise. I'm not saying there aren't countries that don't have this, but a lot of them right now are under attack with mass immigration, which is just a means of infiltrating people subversively, militarily. I'm going to tell you that right now. That's the problem with these illegal immigrants in DARPA. We've talked about it. It's a security threat to the United States. You know, we have a way of life that is unique in all the world. Mm-hmm. And we live, and we have three basic laws. Do no harm to others, don't violate the public peace, and don't violate the public trust. And you think about the things you get irritated with, you only get upset with your neighbor if you're a pretty cool, easy, cheesy American, because he's being like super loud at 3 a.m. But it's, you know, once or twice a year, you might, all the time, he's going to have a problem. You know, it's the public peace thing. I mean, we understand how to all get along regardless of our race, creed, color, or whatever. They have to instigate it. That's the point of the state right now. We have a unique thing, and they're trying to divide us. We have a unique law.
Well, they have,
and we have allowed the world
divided us, and it's really unfortunate because none of this, what's occurring to the people and the public, the civilians.
Oh, it's all contrived, and I think the American people are getting
collectively. We should be against the human trafficking. Period. It should be something we should unite because they prey on every race, color, creed.
If they're doing it here, what are they doing in third world countries, people? Come on.
They want to make us a third world republic. They want to make it a banana republic.
If they're able to hide,
so they have to prop up these actors, these agents of foreign agents, which are usually CIA agents, some of the top major ones. They have to prop them up in front of the public and tell the public, oh, you know, you need to hate the other sex. You need to hate people of this color or this color. They need to keep us divided because if we all unite against the human trafficking, they can't continue to oppress humanity.
Right, and the only reason we haven't been thinking it's happening is because they've been presenting a sense of legitimacy, which is all a bunch of crap.
It's the mainstream media, which is telling you what to think and how to perceive reality on a daily basis, and it's absolutely fake.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, if they have proof that there are actual media people who are in front of the camera every day as their first-person anchor, having direct communications with the Hillary campaign to disseminate information that's potentially classified and or false and or whatever, that I do not believe that those people have the protection of the First Amendment. I think that is a seditious act, that is a conspiracy against rights, that is a contrived, orchestrated panacea of disinformation, and I think that those people should be arrested and brought in and put under investigation. And I'm totally down for that. And because that's not free press.
There's media personalities that they straight out admit that they're there. They're there to tell the people
to control what people think.
To control what people think. I think.
Well, it is called programming.
I can't think of her first name.
Well, it is all programming. They've disclosed that.
Yeah, I mean, Brzezinski came out and said publicly. My job is
it's all disclosure, right? But still, we don't perceive. We're free to be. Here's the problem with the paradigm. We have become naively victimized. We're free to be naive, and but here's the problem, and we are. And per our law, they're supposed to leave the naive alone. They're supposed to leave the infant, the insane, and the infirm alone. And they're also supposed to leave us alone because we're supposed to be living by the constructs of one creator, not false Elohims and men. We don't serve the state. So if we don't serve the state, but we were required by the feudal laws to give our estates to this paradigm, this cultish, misogynistic, sadosexual cult of pedophiles. I mean, I don't really know. These people are just they are nihilists. They do whatever they want because they think they have the right. But we were required to give our estates by the law at the time to them, but it was put into a trust, and they've been given a certain time frame to prove themselves as trustees. And the system, the trust laws they've created are fine, but within their systems, their bar unions of trustees, they have allowed the cultivation of completely, utterly criminal enterprises of RICO that are trafficking babies and humans. That's the best way I can put it out there. But here's the issue. The reason why nothing's been done is because we thought it was being taken care of. We thought that these people were taken care of. It was that we had the semblance of we had the representation, the legitimacy. Well, and they're telling you these are a lot. They put police. They put. I'm not bashing these shows, but Law and Order. They put all these TV shows on that tell you how stuff supposedly works behind the scenes. I'm going to tell you right now that stuff don't happen like that.
None of it works like that. All of these shows, what is it, The Wife, The Lawyer's Wife, or whatever, none of those shows are based firsthand in reality.
Absolutely. It's not like that at all.
How does the FBI exploit jurisdiction of kidnapping for state-sanctioned child stealing?
Well, I tell you what they're doing is they're just stifling people, the investigative power. One thing that they've done, and I actually need to write this guy an email, but I just had a conversation with an FBI agent, and I'm going to tell you, my mom's a civil servant for 30 years, and my mom is very, very upset. It's very, very hurtful to her to know what she knows about the FBI because she knew FBI agents that did their job and helped prevent crimes against the United States. I'm going to tell you, my mom, as a 30-year civil servant, will tell you that the government changed and became subject to unlawful influences is when the Civil Servants Union was put under the control of political appointees. And prior to that, the Civil Servants Unions protected the instruments of law. And again, we are a manifest destiny where we are to merge moral capitalism, really, with communism. Is really what we're doing, because the people own the estates. They are the estate, and we put our governance into the hands at this point in time of a corporate style of kind of a fascist system, but with the mandate to serve the people as the highest valued instrument, the merchandising of the equity of men. We have a corporation which is supposed to represent the equity of each and every one of us in humanity. And if you go to bankruptcy and you are a sole proprietor and you are a mason or you are a painter or a carpenter and you make your living with a craft, if you were to go to bankruptcy, there's nothing attachable. There's no instrument of materialism because you are the bank. You are the company. Your equity, your intellectual property is what creates the value. So it's that bar, that zero in law that we have perfected, okay? But now they've moved it down to our children at birth, and no one's protecting the interests of the child. We thought that they protected us at birth. They don't. They're treating babies as things. They're treating babies as things that have no rights. And openly
we're one of only 3 countries left that has no rights established for children.
Well, but our rights are the superior rights of all children. The rights that we convey to our children in law are rights for all children. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. We set the bar of the law. We set the value of the Jubilee. We established actually, we didn't. The construct of spirituality and law that we follow, Yeshua in Jesus, established a Jubilee Trust. We are the people that created a nation that was in disagreement with the heretical cult that evolved out of the murders of our advocate, the Pope and the Holy Roman Empire, and the ecclesiastic and monarchical laws from that. We have established a law that we still refuse to follow Caesar and the Pharisees. That's who we are. We don't have earthly kings and queens and all that stuff. We follow Yeshua. He established that Jubilee Trust. Constantine used the word law of the land. The Jubilee Trust is established in the Bible.
Explain for the listeners, when they pervert the title, the federal funding, and they compromise these cases, explain to the listeners about how they access our Jubilee Trust and why it's corrupt, why it's not just.
Well, the Jubilee Trust is actually, okay, there's the Yeshua Jubilee Trust, but then we, as the pillar, the fourth crown of law, that separated ourselves from the Pope and all that type of stuff, the ecclesiastic, we separated ourselves from Roman civil law, ecclesiastic law, and monarchical law with the passage of the Tona. Under feudal law, when you, through a common law act, remove yourself from the law of the realm, your estate is placed in civil mortis. You are civilly dead. And you're supposed to be allowed and provided for. You're not supposed to be penalized or objectified or targeted or made to be subjected to whatever laws imposed upon you, barring you haven't hurt anyone, you're not violating the public trust or public trees. But you say, I haven't done any of these things, and you are not my Elohim. I don't agree with your jurisdiction to tell me, what you say what is a trespass or a crime when I've done none of these three things. I have no victim. These are common law instruments. These are common law principles and maxims of American common law, evolved from Chancery. If you don't do that, leave me alone. You can take my land, you can lease it, you can take the value of all my hereditaments, even my intellectual property. Just leave me alone and let me be lived peaceably.
Yeah.
Okay? They're not doing that.
A lot of people would really like that,
that is the American construct of America. That is America. That is the foundations of the law of America. That is our crown of law. That there's only three laws. But let me tell you, those three laws, everybody's instruments of state are subjected to that law.
So let's talk about peonage. There's two different words. There's peonage and there's patronage.
Well, there's also slavery.
Yeah.
Peonage is when you can contract yourself out of slavery. But slavery is allowed by free will contract too. I mean, if your husband wants to be your slave, hey, as long as he's not infant, insane, or infirmed, and he is a consenting, willful adult, that's actually allowed in our construct. Now, you can't oppress, tyranny, put on those around you with that. You can't make your kids subject to your proclivities. Your children aren't your dominion. You know what I'm saying? It's the simplest contract is you and God. The next one is you and your spouse. But God's the second witness. God's the third party.
When there's not a third party involved, the state. What is it called?
When there's not a third party involved in state?
In marriage.
Well, I would say in marriage?
Yeah.
What's a treaty? I would say it's a personal treaty.
So
it's a treatise.
You make a treaty with this person and you make an estate.
A personal treaty.
You make your own estate.
You create what a marriage license is doing is through their instrument of commercial law creating a corporate instrument. Your marriage is deemed an instrument of commerce. Mm-hmm. And so when you go, and this is the other thing about this. When you go get divorced, when you are a corporation and imagine this. Imagine a divorce is the corporation of your husband and you're each a corporation.
Yeah,
so imagine that Aldi and Kroger got married and then tried to separate their stuff. Okay.
Yeah. They don't want to separate the stuff anymore. They just want to liquidate all of the assets.
Well, exactly. And here's the deal. If you go to a marriage, you got a license, then you go to divorce court and you're subject to probate because they're going to take their tithe off all of the products of your corporate instrument. And guess what? You know what a product of your corporate union was? Your kids. They're part of the estate because you're not in common law. That's commercial law. Those are estates. You're talking about dealing with estates.
So let's just say, hypothetically, let's just say I wanted to get married, but I didn't want to involve the state as a third party.
You know what you do? You do what me and Ray did. God's your third witness. You say this. I say before you and my God that I am yours and you are mine, and your flesh is your flesh and my flesh is your flesh, and we are bound before God. And you go say that and you're done. That's a common law marriage. Uh-huh. That's a common law union. Your God is witness. But, we didn't walk into these things lightly. We have what's called a great deal where we put, one of them was kiss a lot, laugh more. That was a rule. Like, we've contemplated the purpose of our union. And it's a private thing. And when people, we shared that with people, they're like, can I copy that? We're like, no. They're like, that's wonderful. That's like the best vows ever. People have become subjected. People have become narcissists. We didn't have witnesses when we got married. You know who our witness was? God in the rain. We got married on the morning I had to leave prison before God in the rain in the dark under a tree. That's how we got married. Someone asked us, are you married? I see you both wear a ring. Her ring is like an $8 ring that you buy through a box. I told her I ordered her 2 big clothes and 2 small a ring. If you've been to prison, you know why. Because she needed clothes too big so that the male and some of the female COs wouldn't harass her sexually. I mean, it's oppressive. This is a horribly oppressive construct. Men should never be allowed to be in ultimate control of women. It's a bad idea. It takes a special man, and I've met COs. I've talked to COs even when I was in prison that get it. They're just like that big bear daddy kind. I've seen a CO go and pick a woman fighting up by her pants and just stand her up like his big brother. That's the kind of guy you want in prison. And I'm serious. Women are just catty. You don't need these aggressive, sexually oppressive men in women's prisons. That's disgusting. You don't need stockish women who hate communions of women either. It's supposed to be a sisterhood. Men's prison should be about the brotherhood. Even regardless of your sexuality, it should be about the brotherhood of men and the sisterhood of women. The failures in those things. And a lot of people have been denied that in their upbringing. And that's contrived.
Okay, I'm going to tell you something. I have irrational fear of marriage or, like, being in a relationship.
Well, I mean, it's definitely, according to, if you're a Christian, Ray and I are married forever. There is no, death does not dissolve that bond. And I actually feel that with Ray. I mean, I do feel that. I feel that I've definitely been bound to her before. I'm bound to Ray. I don't know how many times, but she is someone I'm bound to. And God made it that way. Goddess made it. She would say, Goddess, Goddess made it that way. Goddess, God, I should say, actually. Goddess, God made it that way because Mother, Father is always how Jesus said it. So Goddess comes first. Goddess, God made it that way because Goddess wanted me to be bound to her so that I would feel compelled as I do to defend the rights of...
I want to read these vows now.
They're pretty bad. They're pretty badass, I should say. We just reread them the other night, and we had such an amazing... I would never suggest prison, but my prison term was a spiritual quest for me. It was... I would tell... My mom told people that I was on sabbatical. And there were people that knew me. When I was in prison, my mom said she's on sabbatical. There were people that knew me, that knew I was in prison, and knew me well enough to know that when my mother said, oh, she's on, they'd say, when she get home, she goes, well, she gets from sabbatical, and she'd give the date. And they actually knew I was in prison, but they knew that it was a sabbatical for me. It was a spiritual vision and a spiritual journey that I subjected myself to, that I could have easily gotten out of. And I was like, I cannot believe this shit. And I wanted to see where this went. And it just broke my heart. It just broke my heart.
Well, yeah,
it really did.
It's created who you are today.
Absolutely, and it creates my indignation. I have a couple words people should look up. People should look indignation.
And I think we have a bond, and we have a righteous anger.
Actually, absolutely, and indignation is an interesting. I just was talking about. I'm perceived as very angry sometimes, but really I'm indignant. I have a sense of morally unjustness. And I'm going to tell you, go look up these words in a series. Go look up indignant, and then you see the word within indignant, disappropriated. And then you go look up disappropriated. It's when you revoke a vow of some kind. And then you look up appropriated. And you see that in the word appropriated, so I'm disappropriated. So I'm the opposite of appropriated, right? I have disappropriated. So an appropriate, if you were to look up the word appropriate, it means someone who is a novitiate in probate. A novitiate is a person who takes a religious vow and chooses to be on probation in a religion. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So my indignance is when I'm actually, the word indignant implies an unjustness spiritually. Like when you look at the root of the word.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm indignant because I'm not a novitiate. I'm not willing to be put on probation to be indoctrinated into their cult. See?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the
root
objective.
of the word.
That's really is the objective.
I'm not willing to accept you as my Elohim of what is acceptable behavior. You're not going to put me on probation and observe my behavior. My family was pivotal that in 1809, you don't get to subject me to that. I removed myself from your overseeing, tyrannical Elohim statist mindset of controlling my every walk in life to the point of stealing my children when I smoke too much. Seriously, cigarettes. It's that crazy.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing. It's not funny.
You and I both know there are people that have their children removed for outrageous, disgusting stuff,
or just allegations.
Allegations. I mean, allegations of even you smoke too much. What the hell?
So why would the FBI use the Lindbergh? Okay, do you know the Lindbergh baby case?
Yes.
The Lindbergh baby case to take jurisdiction over kidnapping, similar to the way that the federal government has the alcohol, tobacco, firearms, superseding local.
Well, I'm okay with that because
and local,
children are
an ultimate investigation. Why would the FBI use that?
How many? Well, okay. First off, they needed to create that jurisdiction, and that jurisdiction was created before a very serious coup happened, with the death of Kennedy. Mm-hmm. Okay. Our government was couped when they murdered Kennedy. And I saw a meme yesterday or today, and it talked about how actually Trump is actually doing exactly what Kennedy did. And he actually is. Because this time he walked in with the military. I mean, the thing that irritates me the most, more than the fact that these people are still holding our son hostage and can't tell us where he is, or even if he's alive, okay, despite the fact that on the prima facie evidence of the case, these people kidnapped him by all aspects of law, is that they're so overt in presenting a false representation, and then there's a coup. And that's the thing, is everyone is shocked by this fact. I knew that the FBI was corrupt, but I don't think 99.99999% of the world knew that the FBI had been couped from within. People in Ohio have been talking about child trafficking in Ohio to the FBI. I was just talking to a guy 2 weeks ago, and he said that they actually spoke to the FBI, and the FBI of Ohio at some point in time within the last 15 years or whatever actually started investigating the child trafficking in the courts, and they relocated the guy to Alaska. Swear to God, that's what they said. So it had to do with it wasn't just, when I say the top down, it's top down to the point where they're moving agents that actually are doing their job. Agents that are doing their job are being sent to the farthest reaches of the world and punished for actually doing their most pivotal job, which is protecting the children, investigating kidnapping within the systems of state. Like they're just like, you can't. No, you're going to investigate a judge for kidnapping a kid or a cop. Nope, you're out of here. You're going to Alaska. And this was systemic reporting. This was reporting like there was RICO and criminality involved within the systems of the counties. So the FBI is a victim of manipulation. All instruments of state right now are being manipulated by unseen hands, and they're outside of the United States. That's why I'm not going to. Congress has had an ample opportunity. Congress is just as dirty, I promise you, on the backside as the FBI and the DOJ.
Well,
it's just the people
I think to myself, because obviously I'm, a blogger and I do a lot of research, perhaps a journalist as well. But
historian, you want to know what's going on.
Yeah, and the thing is that
Experiencing
I
crime.
profile a lot of corruption, and it's not civilians committing these crimes. It is individuals within the Child Protective Services
These
and
aren't
the
simple
system.
errors.
But wait a second. And I have to ask myself, okay, so we have these individuals, supervisors, and the heads of DCFS in different states that are committing these crimes and being arrested for child pornography and so much more. So I have to ask myself, this agency is totally unregulated. Nobody's regulating this agency.
The judiciary is supposed to regulate them. That's the point.
So, but they've got their hands in the cookie jar.
They're cooed.
So,
they've always been cooed.
So I have to ask myself, and I ask myself this all the time. Is CPS the one that's compromising our government, our judiciary?
Well, and we're going to get to that. Okay, listen here. This is what CPS and police have been given in the law by the judiciary. Trier of fact and trier of law on site. They are allowing police to be the judge, the trier of fact and the trier of law, and then the executioner on site. Are you aware? I mean, this is the power they've given their standing army, because police are an extra constitutional invention of the judiciary, which I can prove by law is a foreign instrument. So we are being occupied by a foreign standing military in the police who have been given the ability to try fact, try law, and execute you with a gun on site. That's what's going on right now, first off. CPS, in the case with Clay, were allowed to have an ex parte hearing in the parking lot of the police department that the police... Okay, Clay was not taken by a warrant. He was taken without a warrant on a Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock with his guardian in the parking lot from coming there. This town is small. It's like 7 by 7 blocks. The aunt who had guardianship and custody of the child at the time of Ray's arrest was 2 blocks away from the arrest, okay? The police department told Ray to put the child into the custody of a stranger, was not really a stranger, small town. She knew the woman, right, but it's not a family member, who was ordered by the police to walk the child to the police department. By the time the aunt got to the police department, the CPS worker, Mary Legg, was sitting at the cop station and had grabbed the kid and was standing in the parking lot and proceeded to have her trial, where she proceeded to question the aunt who had custody of this child and tell her what she could and couldn't do and why she was disqualifying to give this child back into her custody.
What I don't understand,
she's not an attorney. This is the problem. The CPS is an instrument of the executive branch. The executive branch. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The attorney's office, which actually are controlling CPS, are an instrument of the judicial branch.
Why are they not required to at least give proof of life after all this time, Lotus?
They are. They're not following the law. The people are not following the law. They are mandated by contract, which pays they're required by law. When they get those funds from the CPS, from the Title IV, the federal mandate grant law, they are required to follow the federal mandates. They're not following the law. The states are committing fraud against the United States every time they seize a child outside of Title IV. Every time they seize a child without warrant, that's a violation of Title IV and the Constitution, and it is a fraudulent.
I have a post that you can post to your door. I just posted it and published it to the Porthole to Justice wall on Facebook. It says you can post it to your door. It's Constitution. I don't know what I put, but they cannot come onto your property without a warrant. And a lot of people...
you don't have to open the door to a cop, folks. You don't have to open the door to anybody.
No.
And if you don't open your door, if you don't let the devil in, remember this, you don't let the devil in. Don't open your door to the devil.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best advice I can give to people. These people don't have jurisdiction over it. And if they walk you and say, we have a warrant, say, well, I want to see the order from the judge. You say, I want to see his name and I want that judge's phone number, and you want to see the clerk. You can shut the door right in front of their face, and you go call that judge and that administrator. You say, no. I'm going to verify that you signed this form. You want to get the name, because there are police.
We're working really hard to create awareness and to...
But I'm telling you that they created two instruments of legal power, police powers and CPS, that are colluding together as triers of fact and triers of law with gun enforcement, because a cop, he's a trier of fact, trial of law, and that can shoot you. So a cop shows at your door, he's a trier of fact and trial of law and can shoot you on sight, pursuant to what the legal establishment law, the legalese of these attorney bar unions, their standing army, can come get your kids and stuff with guns. And then the CPS workers can come in there as triers of fact and law and not give your child back to you, and just steal your child right from under you and take him physically in custody. But she's got this backup guy with a gun. It's literally inland piracy. They're pirating our children.
Exactly.
It's inland piracy.
It's piracy.
They are using the law that they are operating on makes their acts inland piracy. They are under the law of water admiralty. They are totally abusing of admiralty law. Is an utter encroachment upon the land. But that is the divine manifest destiny. I see the path. The two forms of law had to come together where the water and the land meet. But guess what? The law of the land is superior because all water falls upon the land.
Oh, wait a second. Let's talk about how we are individual temples. And
yes,
we, those of us that, have given our lives over to a higher power, or Jesus.
Right, not the state.
We go into these temples of Baal, right? Baal.
Right. E-A-apostrophe-A-L.
Yeah, and we paid Baal. We tied and paid Baal to get out of the temple of quote-unquote Baal.
Right.
This was all really interesting for me to research and learn because...
it's all pretty spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
And Baal was a major deity of the Roman Empire. I mean, they're a polytheistic empire. And you know what we've done? We've just taken that polytheism and said, yeah, but all of them follow one God.
So we have Baal, which is like the air.
Yeah, Beelzebub. You have Moloch.
Beelzebub is the Lord of the Flies, and he controls the hive mind. The people that have already sold out to the collective or the establishment, if you will.
Right, he's characterized by a dragon with wings and something with a crown on. Like he actually has a crown. He's actually one of the few deities with a crown on his head. Beelzebub is, I think, higher than Baal.
Well, I mean, he's the Lord of the Flies, and it's
he's the Lord of the Flies.
It's
and that's why I love this. I mean, to me, it's just this one big. And if it weren't for the fact that there are children actually being tortured and maimed, all this other horrible. If it weren't for the suffering of innocence, this is an incredible natural evolution for the argument of divinity and stuff. In the way that the human experience and spirituality in this reality in this realm has come to evolve to create a system where we can actually parse
so crucial
and take and protect children. We can now protect children in their estates and have a definitive law which protects them from the abuses of that state.
Yeah,
and that's a divine
about creating an estate as well. At its on another note and at another time, but the other thing is I always go back to this because I love it because Jesus was actually an advocate of humanity.
And he's in the original tongues, he's called the advocate. He's our advocate. Mm-hmm. With a capital A, advocate. That makes him an executor de son tort in the law, meaning someone who...
This is kind of where we're going with this, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's the curing of his crown and the creation of the law of... Okay, the fourth crown of law is the law of the oppressed and those who are... unlawfully persecuted, which Christ was. Christ was unlawfully persecuted for actually affecting. Christ was put to death for affecting a miracle on the state professed Sabbath. That's what he was put to death for. He was put to death for curing a blind and ailing woman on the the Sabbath as defined by the Pharisees. He served Rome and Caesar. And he was declared a heretic for helping a woman spiritually and effecting a miracle on a day. He was basically called a heretic for doing God's work on God's day. So that should tell you, right? But their God was Caesar, not Yeshua's God,
the Most High.
And Yeshua is not going to say, "Hey, it's the Sabbath of my overseeing corporate estate and corporate government that's supposed to be managing my lands for the purposes of promoting commerce." It says I'm not supposed to work on this day pursuant to their fake state-supported religion, so I'm not going to heal this woman of her blindness.
Well,
that's not Yeshua.
I want to wrap this up, and I have to wrap this up, but I want to solidify we're not.
No, we want the judiciary. The corruption. The corruption of the judiciary is the issue. The corruption of the judiciary has allowed our legislature to be blackmailed, because the corruption of the judiciary has allowed the ABC instruments of state to become the personal business liaisons for the corrupt unions and the bar unions of the states and the federalism.
And I don't know who this person was. I don't even want to mention their name because they're probably a shill in the movement. But you and I have never at any point talked about settling. Ever.
Absolutely no attorney will ever be my settler. I mean, here's what I'm going to tell you. I think that everyone should be bypassing the judiciary and the cops and just start slamming Trump's administration and learn who your secretaries of state are, your secretaries of different divisions. If you have an issue with kids and CPS and all that stuff and the state abuses like that, do HHS. If you're having issues with being targeted by police who are corrupt and affecting, bills of pains and penalty and hijacking you on the streets and making you pay cash on the streets, I mean, just stuff like that, basically just hooliganism under the auspices of a state's badge, then write your DOJ. Your FBI, I don't know what they're doing right now. We've gone to the FBI. They didn't care. So just bypass them and just start sending stuff to your congressman and to the heads of Trump's agencies. I'm going to tell you to
for
bypass
7 years.
Congress.
For 7 years, people in the porthole to justice have sent, affidavits and evidence of corruption and fraud on the court. And the FBI has sent them back the same exact letters that their case doesn't qualify for
I don't know if they're going to start
investigation.
carrying.
And
I hope they are.
Not only that, they seem like they're completely complicit.
Well, I think they're godsmacked in the lower ranks because I think there are people that care, and I think they've been very manipulated, and I think a lot of people went in the FBI thinking it's this, and it's been the face of legitimacy where they put the law in front of us and put the propaganda and say we're doing this. They even make TV programs to say this is what we're doing, and they don't do that. Okay, It's not how it's run. It's all lies. It's we're gonna make the American we've been lied to intentionally. We've been misled by propaganda, by standard fascist Nazism. This is global fascism. This has been outside manipulation. The bar union, the esquires of the bar union are considered the bulwark of the Communist Party. People keep talking about Russia. It's not about Russia. It's about communism. It's about institutionalized world banking communism. It's the bad kind of communism. It's fascism. It's an elite group of people trying to be your rulers communism. This isn't real communism. We're really communist. The usufruct of the United States of America is the real communist construct. Everyone has equity in this world. They have a jubilee, and no man is greater than another, no state. That's communism. That's utopian communism. That's our law.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't communism. This is fascism. This is world fascism. It gave rise in Germany. Hitler was allowed to do what he did because the judiciary of the government of Germany, the Republic of Germany, had been couped and allowed it to happen and made things legal that were unlawful by their constitution. Sound familiar? They practiced on Germany. That was a practice run. That was the prevailing republic at the time. Commercially, historically, we hadn't come rise yet. So, they've been doing this for a while. We need to find the masters. We're going to do it. We're not giving up.
I really want to talk to you about I have so much I want to talk to you about, and I love our conversation so much. I could go on forever and ever.
Yeah, we talk a lot, and we talk a lot on the side.
I know, and I love it. I love you so much.
We're not giving up. No, we're not. We're not
But-
giving up until the root of the corruption is exposed.
No, we're not.
And-
So I just wanted to solidify that, and I think
No, and we're not going to give up
time-
until they institute a search for all these missing kids, and use the Social Security Administration, the IRS systems to find these kids. They're changing their identities. They're issuing these kids new birth certificates because that creates another bond. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean,
so
they're just doing egregious things.
They get to collect
more
many,
racketeering,
many
more
times
racketeering.
on these children.
I tell you what.
Even the
I'm gonna
children
find
that
my
run
son.
away from state custody.
Exactly. They don't even care. It's like, oh, that's an acceptable amount of loss. No, we're going to find our son. I'm going to find my son.
We have 800 missing children in Los Angeles out of foster care. We have 80 in, I think is it Kansas? You told me today.
I think it's in 1 month or something. Just something.
Just in 1 month, and then we have in Arizona, and more children missing. With no explanation at all.
I'm even upset that there are children falling through the cracks. They're just being missing from daily activities. I mean, I don't want them tracking all our kids, but we have so much criminality in the state. I mean, it's really concerning to me. It's really, and I think
me too. Me too.
It's very concerning. Well, I love your efforts. I love what we do, and no, we're not going to settle. There's no settlement for the trafficking children.
Thank God, and we're so blessed. And I'm not
going to have this happen again.
On this journey, Lotus, we have to admit, and this is testimony here. So many of our prayers have been answered, and we have come so far together. And
absolutely.
I am not. And
I'm going to tell you that Trump being selected, I don't care.
Yeah.
Him being there instead of Hillary, it made the whole reality a completely different possibility in place. And I'm going to tell you, we would be in the throes of just disgusting, repugnant, want to retch in your stomach and your mouth every minute of the day if Hillary Clinton had been elected, because those people, who they know and who they work for and what they were promoting, is just a vile construct. It's really just gross. I can't even begin to tell people.
Yeah,
it's not.
And people that are still rationalizing and supporting it's
what is it? Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
It's what the people of Germany went through after World War II, and they didn't know what was going on. Some people choose to not see it. Some people can't handle it. They don't like the movie, but I know. I mean, I don't like that I know, and it's difficult for me. I can see where it's difficult for people, but we're going to keep fighting until what has allowed this to happen is corrected, and the fourth round is affirmed, so that they understand there is a penalty for failure of fiduciary duty, and it's a very severe and steep one. This is the design of our system, and we're going to exercise
we need outside agencies that are willing to enforce the failure of fiduciary, and that's if they know show and a whole nother issue.
Right, that's a whole other issue, but not everybody's bad. And there are good people, and it's all about their deeds, and we just need to be vigilant and express our indignance and not settle. We're not going to settle till the children are safe, and the state is not an agent of kidnapping. It's not going to happen. We're not going to tolerate it anymore. I love your efforts, and I love your show. So,
you are my show, for the outlet. And everybody that contributes, and
everybody keep praying. Everybody keep
praying. And I am going to be going on a special episode of the Zeph Report, and I'm going to be praying on this topic and much, much more. And Lotus has a YouTube channel, Lunch with Lotus.
You can sorry.
Yeah, look it up. She's a lot of great information. I mean, a wealth of knowledge in that woman. Lotus is very unique. She's got a photographic memory, and she's very well versed in legalese and the law and the judiciary. And you never cease to amaze me, because anything I want to ask you, it's right there, and I'm so lucky. Yeah. I love you so much.
Well, thank you for the time, and I appreciate your friendship. So you guys be good. I love you all. Namaste.
Namaste. All right, God bless. I love you, and Ray. Tell Ray good night.
I certainly will. She made dinner. I'm really hungry.
All right, go enjoy. Have a nice night, guys. All right, bye-bye. All right, everyone, that's another episode of Porthole to Justice. You can tune in on Spreaker.com. You can subscribe to the show. It's absolutely free. You can download the app, and you can get email updates of when I go live. I'm also on Patreon. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to support our content, you feel free to do so. I have links on the Porthole to Justice Facebook page to donate, and it's awesome because it helps us, keep going. And thank you so much for tuning in. All right, everyone, I love you. Have a great night. Bye-bye.